Hey folks, Justin from Tackle Tactics. Today we are looking at how to fillet another popular target species, tailor. Alright, so another filleting video in our series. You can check out the others at Tackle Tactics TV on YouTube. Today we are looking at tailor, so we've got our Toadfish folding filleting board ready to go. And also this super sharp Toadfish folding fillet knife. And I'm going to step you through how to fillet one of my favourite fish species. So tailor, I love chasing tailor, especially up the beach on Fraser Island and that sort of thing, spinning them up on light gear. They're an aggressive fish. They really love eating lures as well as baits. Sometimes they'll even jump out of the water when you're fighting them as well. So the key thing with the tailor, when we do catch a tailor, is that we want to bleed the fish. So I've got a couple of tailor here that I caught recently kayak fishing on a 2.5-inch slim swims. They love plastics as well as slugs, and also the fish ink flanker is another of my favourite for targeting them. So this is just a small tailor, a chopper tailor. A lot of times you'll find schools of them and they're smaller fish like this, but they do grow to epic proportions. So you can see I've cut the neck on this tailor and bled it out in a bucket of water. So when you're catching tailor, the important thing to remember is to bleed them out. That'll make them much better as a table fish. And the other thing you got to do is look after the fish. So when I catch a tailor, I will bleed it thoroughly and then I'll put it in an ice box, and then it's good to go later on. Great eating if they're eaten fresh, like on a barbecue or something like that. A lot of people love tailor straight on the barbie or tailor eaten fresh. If you are going to freeze them, you're best off vacuum sealing them so that the fillets stay good and still eating them within reasonable time, because the flesh on them can go mushy and break up or dry up in the freezer and that sort of thing if not vacuum sealed. So I would vacuum seal them if you do want to keep a few for a feed. Otherwise, eat them fresh and they're a much better eating fish. So we've got our GoPro here so we can have a closer look at what we're doing, and you guys can follow the steps that I go through here. Filleting a tailor, I like to keep it very simple. So if you like to leave the skin on, you can just scale the fish, fillet it, pick the bones out, and then put it on the barbie or cook it however you want to cook it with the skin on. I like to take the skin off, and I also like to bone all the bones out of it. So first step for me, I simply come in behind the fin, and I'm basically going to cut up in and take that meat from right in behind the head there. So I just basically slice right down until I hit the backbone. You'll feel the knife touch the backbone, and that's where we stop. And we're basically just going to run our knife along the backbone. You'll feel the knife touching the backbone as we run right down the length of the fillet. And there you go. That's a pretty good looking fillet of tailor right there. So you can see we've run along that backbone. We haven't left a lot of meat in there or anything like that. You can see it's a darker meat than, say, a flathead, and it is a more oily, stronger tasting fish, which puts some people off. But it is a great eating fish when eaten fresh. Also makes great fish cakes. It's awesome in the smoker. So that's one side of our fish taken off. Now we just turn it over, and we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. If you find you have problems getting the fillet off on this side because you've taken the other side off, some people will come up from the tail of the fillet and they'll actually just work backwards up around and take that fillet off. I'll basically just do the same thing. I'm going to go in and down until we hit the backbone. I'm going to turn that knife sideways, and I'm going to run that knife along the backbone of the fish. So I can see that's coming away nicely there. I'm just being a little bit careful coming down this back here, because I'm on that, I've got that frame on the bottom there, and that's our frame of our tailor. So again, not a lot of waste when we fillet the tailor, knocking that slab off each side, and that's great crab bait. It's also a hot tip I've been told is it's also really good dewy bait to fish a tailor frame into the gutters and off the breakwalls and that sort of thing for a dew fish as well. So that's our 2 slabs of fish. And now I'm going to skin them. If you want to leave the skin on, that's fine. I'm going to knock the skin off these. So basically all I'm doing is holding my fingers down at the end of the flesh here, and I'm just going to use that knife to run that flesh off the skin. I just pull the fish back towards me a little and just hold up the fillet with my hand, and I just run that knife along the skin. A good knife makes a difference as well. So you can see there, that's the skin of the tailor. So there's really not much left there, but that means I'm not scaling the fish, I'm just taking the skin off, and that leaves me this beautiful piece of meat. So I've got a beautiful fillet of tailor there. We've got our rib bones here. So that's our next order of business, is we need to take the rib bones out. Some people will do that before they skin, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, whatever works for you. And that's our rib bone piece out. There's another good bit of bait if you want a bit of bait, otherwise straight in the crab pots. And now all that we've got left is some pin bones down the middle of the fish. So those pin bones, we can just run either side of that backbone. I'll just pull that aside there, and I've got the pin bones running down here so I can feel the pin bones. And I'm basically just going to run the knife on the other side of those pin bones. And I'm going to take them out of there as well. There's another bit of bait, or another good bit of crab bait. And that's just our pin bone piece in there, and that gets rid of the pin bones. And we now have a bone-free piece of tailor. So you can see a nice, easy fish to fillet, and one that I've filleted plenty of up on the beach at Fraser, that's for sure. So we'll grab our other fillet, we're going to skin and bone it as well. So we just knife down near the tail, and we're just going to run that knife along the skin and take that flesh off the skin. I've kept a fin on down the bottom here, so I've just got to be a little bit careful around there. I don't have the sink to wet the knife either. It'd be nice to wet the knife a bit now so that it runs a bit smoother. But I'm just going to basically lift that skin off. Got a little bit catching around the fin down the bottom there, which is just a matter of knocking through there. Oh, and lift the rest of our skin off, and there you go. So you can see I left a tiny, less than a millimetre of meat on there up towards the top. That knife was getting a bit sticky from the oily tailor. So you can always rinse your knife in the sink, and that'll make that a lot easier for you. So there you go, you can see the bloodline on the tailor. So I could have bled this one a little bit better by the look of it. The more you bleed it, more effectively you bleed it, the less of that bloodline you'll have. Some people, if they get a heavy bloodline, will cut the bloodline out, but you know, it's nice and tasty, that's for sure. Our rib bones. So again, we're just going to knock our rib bones out. Take that crab bait, and then again, we've just got our pin bones to get rid of. Our pin bones run down the centre of the backbone there, so I'll come in one side of them, knock those out, come on this side as well, and we're just taking those pin bones out of the middle of the fillet. And there you go. So that's pretty good. That's our 2 fillets of tailor. You can see there 2 solid fillets of fish. Nice tasty feed. They'll be for my dad, he loves a feed of tailor. So even out of that 1 chopper size tailor, we've got those 2 nice fillets. So not a lot of wastage on a tailor. A great eating fish. You don't need to keep a million of them. Just keep in mind that they are best eaten fresh or looked after when you do catch them, and vacuum sealed in the freezer for eating later on. So there you go, good fun. Get out there, see if you can get stuck into a few tailor. If I had to pick 3 lures to chase them on, I'd probably throw a TT Lures Hardcore Metal Slug, a Fish Inc. Lure Flanker, and I'd throw a Z-Man 3-inch minnows on a 1/2 ounce 3.0 if I was in the surf, or I'd lighten that jig head up if I was in the estuaries and flick those around. They really like nice light baitfish colours like pearl blue glimmer, opening night, and those sorts of things. So there you go. That is our tailor, filleted up and ready for a feed for my dad. All the best with the fishing. Cheers.